Let's go ahead and start working again with the rest of the scenes here. So if we want, we could just kind of assume that this texture will be the same for all of these. When you're thinking through design, if you know, think through it in a realistic way, when it comes to the aesthetics of a scene or an environment, what's the feeling, the mood you're trying to get, what's the kind of lighting that's happening, what's the color that's going to be perceived, is it something that's trying to set a mood of happy or calm, or is it something that's supposed to be exciting or mysterious? All those things go into every time you put a material onto a surface. For Unity, we're just looking at the basics of grab material, put it on though, but keep it in mind. I'm going to take the material that's on here, so our wood plank number 2. I'm just going to drag this and drop it onto each one of these, and it should be a fast process because we're just simply taking it and placing it on. Now this would be, again, I would consider this a very prototype style design method. From a artist perspective or a serious level designer, repeating textures, patterns, directions, the scaling difference between everything, those would all have to be taken into consideration and revised and tweaked until it's just right. But for us though, we have our beams in place, so they're placed in here. They look fun. It looks like they're going to be a good warm color to actually go with for a terrain environment that comes next. So when it gets to the very top here, what we can do, and this will be kind of just one of those things to kind of show you, is that I can go in here and use my floor and drop it on here, but what happens at this point? If I use my floor and I drop it here, the width of my board is this wide, but the width of my board is this wide here. I'm using the same material, so the tiling over here is set to 1.5. Now if I change my material tiling, notice it changes both of these. So when you're working with a material, if you're going to change the amount of the offset, or you're going to change the amount of the tiling, you actually have to create a new material. So what we want to do is put the wood plank 2 up here. We're just going to make a copy of it, so push Control D, and we'll do wood plank 2, and then we'll just say tile. Actually, we could even put tile and give the value. We'll say it's going to be tile 1, like we're going to do a tiling 1 offset to it. So I'm going to take, oh, I'm sorry, I grabbed the wrong one there. Let's do the floor wood. There we go. So we'll do floor wood, and we'll just name this one. Actually, we'll just say 2A. There we go. Now we're going to take the floor wood 2A, and we'll place it onto here. But now when we change this, so if you select it and go over to the material, you can take this back to 1, and it doesn't change this one because these two are on 2 different ones. This is floor wood 2, and then this one is floor wood 2A. But by doing that, we now are able to make sure that our tile size looks the same going across. Now we do have an interesting element here. You notice how the line comes right there, and you can kind of see a line right there. Well, this is a great spot for one of those darker edges right there. So what we can do is, over on our offset, we can actually take our offset value, and we'll take I believe it's going to be on the Y, and it's going to be the offset value that we have. We just want to go from 0 to 1, so we'll just find where's the closest increment. So if I go 0.01, notice over on the texture right here, I'm just going to do a 0.2 and a 0.3. You see how it's slowly moving over right there? That's what we want to do. We just want to move it over until the line is just about right. So for me, it looks like it's going to be a 0.05. Let's see how that looks. There we go. So 0.05 on the offset. We want to make sure the offset on our normal map is the same, so 0.05 on the Y. So now, instead of having that odd texture piece that was going down, it actually feels even more natural as it goes through here. And these are just some of the small details, small little pieces that you want to be aware of when you're actually working with this. So it looks a lot better that way. Alright. So now we get to the next part. Now structurally, if we were designing and building a platform system going up, we probably wouldn't use planks or pieces of wood going longwise. We continue with that same pattern going this direction. So let's go ahead and take a look real quick and see what we need to do with it. And if we were to take the wood plank, we'll go ahead and just take our, we'll try our wood plank here, and let's see what happens. So what do we have right there at the moment? Now our wood plank is actually going, the texture is going this direction. Now this is one of the catches though, is that if you want to take it, if you want it to go the other direction, you either have to rotate your object and then place your object going up this way, or you're going to need a texture that's actually rotating to the side. If you notice, this one of the catches with Unity is that the texture itself, you actually only have a UV coordinate, you don't have the W coordinate on it. So for this one, we're just going to need to use another texture that actually goes that direction for it. So with that, then let's go ahead and just choose our floor wood to vertical. That way we can actually use it to have the planks going the other direction. Now if you don't have it, remember, you just rotate your geometry the other direction and just make it set up that way. Since we have this one though, we'll go ahead and just use it. Let's see. Let's go ahead and clear out. We'll say this doesn't have a texture on it anymore, so I'm just going to set the material size to 0. Notice when I set it to 0, it just goes away. So what we want to do though is put a material on it. I'm going to left click and drag that wood to over here, and you can actually drag the material, the texture, into an empty spot like this, and when you let go, it actually builds a material right here for you. Alright, so now we have the texture going the right direction. Let's go ahead and do our shader for the bump specular, and then let's go ahead and drag our floor to vertical normal map over there. So let's see how many times we need to repeat it so that it starts to look right on there. If we do 2 times, if you notice, it looks just about the same size right there. So we'll do a tiling on the X 2 times for the normal and 2 times on the base texture. And then all of a sudden we've got a much more interesting look, because we're having thought of the texture goes here. If someone was building it, they'd stop here, they'd build it this direction. And then the same thing for the top of it over here. We can still use our vertical, but we already have it here. So if I was to use this one, do you remember what we did from the last one? The texture size changed on it. So let's take our vertical and just make a copy. So I'm going to do the floor wood to vertical and push Control D. We'll make a copy of it, and we'll just say vertical underscore A, and we're going to take that one and apply it to the top up there. So just like the other one, if you noticed, if we had applied this one, we would be looking at a very squashed texture, and that's not really the right way to do it when it comes to texturing a scene. You want to be very aware of the size of each one of the pieces you're putting in. So let's try 1 and 1 on that one. There we go. So that's looking a lot better, looking like the right type of distance as well, going across there. All right. Cool. The next part, we've got a really dark texture right here to here. We don't want to really have that much of a difference between the two. So let's go ahead and take one or the other, but let's take this one because we're so near the edge, and place our offset on here. So we'll do an offset on the X. We'll do a point 0.01. Looks like it might be about a, there we go, we're about a 0.05 as well. So we'll do a 0.05 on the X for the normal on that one as well. And now we have this nice smooth transition between the two pieces. So instead of being that funny little half piece, it actually looks like we have a whole piece right there. Yeah. Alright, so those are the small little pieces of detail. Make sure, spend your time, look at them. And then even right there, by pulling it up, we're introducing the piece down at the bottom, but that one looks okay because it starts down there. Alright, so this piece being very similar to that one, but if you notice the distances again, distance for this one is short, so we can't use that texture, that material, but we'll make a copy of that one. So the floor wood 2, just push Control D, and we'll do floor wood 2 underscore B. And let's place that one up here. There we go. So now with that one, let's change our offset again. This will be on the Y. And let's see, 2, let's try 2.5. Nope, it actually could be about a 3. There we go. Looks like a good pattern would be about a 3.5. Maybe we'll even go with a 4 here. Okay. So now we have a 4 on here, which gives it the same look. Now how would you do it so you don't have to change up your materials all the time? Just so that you know and you're aware of it, is that so what we're doing is we're building very free form shapes. If you build one square, for instance this square, and you said this is only, and I'm just going to do this as an example so you can see it, is that if this is the only shape I was using and I was happy with it, what I could do is make copies of it. So I can make a copy and snap them and do it this way. And that way if I get to a spot like this and I was supposed to have it rotated, I could rotate it this way if it was a square. And then all of a sudden you don't have to worry about a different material. You're only having one render call for the material, but you're having more geometry in your scene. And then if you have it modeled by an artist, you'll also have it where they can deliberately make the UVs have multiple, so that you can have, rather than just being one long stretch, they'll cut it and then they'll flip their UVs across on each other. There we go. So now we've got a nice little wood plank piece that's going up there, and we could eventually, once we get our terrain in, we could put some posts going down to support it. Alright, so be sure that you've got all the material floor going in, you have it all the way down. Be sure that you've saved. We'll go ahead and push play real quick and check it out and see how it feels with our player again. So it looks good. Has a nice fill once we get up to here. And if you notice, it transitions really well, is that you go up to here and then you're met with the same direction and the same line movement for it, which is really nice. And then once you get to the top, you get up there and you can check everything out. Alright, so again, we'll continue doing the same stuff. We'll work on this room and get things finished off inside of it.